This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to call the regular January 19th, 2021 council meeting to order at 7 p.m. Meeting called to order. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda tonight? Councilor Webb?
Get my mic to turn on there. It's not in our packet. The alleyway approval, is that something new?
Yeah, it's in, I sent it to you, so yeah, it would be good to add that in new business.
So I'd like to add that into new business then, Mr. Mayor. We'd be 13B. What is it? The alleyway, permission to use an alleyway there next to All In Pub.
Correct. Would you like to, with that addition, Councilor Webb, would you like to make a motion and add that to the agenda then?
I would, Mr. Mayor, make motion to accept the agenda with the addition of 13B alleyway use approval.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, second's been made. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Councilor Potter,
Here,
yes? Or
yes. Aye.
Councilor Williams is absent. Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Councilor Allen, that's a thumbs up from Councilor Allen. Councilor Webb,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you, Stephanie.
AR, if you're having problems with your microphone, you can also call in using the number on your agenda, just so you know.
Okay, it doesn't look like there are any presentations tonight. With that being said, I'd like to move into my mayor's report. And I just decided, in light of what we've been through in the last 10 months and our inability to meet in person and going all virtual, we kind of lost sight of what I started 2 years ago, and it's to honor and recognize a citizen of the Vernonia in the local area. And before I turn it over to Susan Wagner, I'd like to discuss what that entails for Lorna now in this case. Grant's not with us, unfortunately, tonight. But I just decided 2 years ago that, and I kind of got the idea from my own experience with my employment, that it meant a lot. It actually meant more to me hearing from my boss, thank you, you're doing a great job, meant more to me than even a dollar an hour raise. And it's a good motivating tool to use to help people become motivated. And it's a good way to thank our volunteers that do so much in the community. So I decided to start a Citizen of the Month award. And I took it on for several months, and then it kind of evolved into the whole council taking it on and participating in it, which was really a really neat thing, I think, because it brought the city council closer to the community and vice versa. So I'd like to bring it back. I think we could do it virtually, and so with this month, I'm honoring Susan Wagner's wish. Her choice was last March when we went all virtual, and she asked me at the end of last year if I'd recognize her choice, which I absolutely thought it was a great idea. So with that being said, I'd like to turn it over to Susan Wagner. She's with us tonight, and she can share her choice from last year and describe it a little bit better. So all yours, Susan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I am hoping that Jessica is somehow listening to this. So when I moved here with my husband and fifth grade daughter in 2006, just before the flood, she was an ice skater. And ice skating in Oregon, for some reason, is very, very non-existent, which makes no sense to me. But we were looking for something for Sarah to be able to do, and came across an ad or notice in the newspaper for the ballet, the Vernonia Ballet Academy, which was incorporated into a school in Longview. Jessica had danced there when she was young and had gone through their school and was an amazing dancer. And we wanted Sarah to have an opportunity to do something, having moved into a small town where she didn't really know anybody. And Jessica embraced her, a child who was not the typical ballet student, in a way that is the way ballet and organizations and kids things should be done. And after about a year and a half or so, Jessica made the decision to go out on her own, and Vernonia Ballet Academy became her sole ownership. She owned Vernonia Ballet and expanded it, and ended up putting on concerts, or not concerts, but the events twice a year. Sarah and all of the students and all of the kids in Vernonia, were boys and girls alike, were able to participate in a way that you don't get in most big cities and in most communities. It was everybody's welcome. Doesn't matter your skill level. You don't have to be a perfect ballet body or a perfect ballet dancer or a perfect any kind of dancer to participate. And Jessica brought an opportunity for so many children in our community. And yes, it's a business. She gets paid a pittance, not very much money for what she does. But she's brought so much culture and opportunity to our community with offering the ballet school to all our kids. I just want to make sure that she got some recognition for being, she has arrived. I see her name down there.
Yep.
Yes. So Jessica, I am talking about how Sarah started, how we found you at the Ballet Academy. And I just wanted this opportunity to make sure that you got the recognition you deserve for having brought something so amazing to Vernonia. and an opportunity for all of the kids, starting at probably what, 3 or 4 years old, up through high school, to participate in a program that has made a huge difference in a tremendous number of children's lives, and I think families' lives too. I think all of us have been touched by what Jessica has done for us. So it is my honor, I'm trying not to cry, to honor Jessica Davis as the Mayor's Citizen of the Month from May 2020, March 2020, even though she should have gotten this every year for the past however many years she's been doing this. So kudos to Jessica. I know we'll get back to this soon, and she will get to start touching little children's lives again pretty darn quick, I hope. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, Susan. And congratulations, Jessica. If you could hear me, why don't we, we'll probably get together at your convenience sometime in the next day or two, and you could meet me and Scott Laird at the City Hall to get your certificate. And again, congratulations, Jessica. And my granddaughter danced under your direction for several years, and I got to watch you firsthand. And thank you so much for what you. I'll reiterate what Councilor Widener said. I'll reiterate how much a difference you made with our youth and our community, and the relationship with the parents, and you were just super. And thank you for all your hours and years of service to our community. And like Susan said, we hope to see you back there again, whatever you decide. So congratulations, Jessica.
Well, if you guys can hear me, I can see your faces. So I just wanted to say thank you guys. It's quite an honor. In fact, I kind of feel like I don't deserve it. COVID, of course, kind of threw a wrench into things, and now I've got a little bit of a different career choice, at least for now. But one of these days, we hope to get back, even if it's just some dance camps or something like that to offer to the kids that are here. And it's been a blessing to be and work in this community for, I think I figured out the other day it was 24 years or pretty darn close to it. So these kids are a big deal. I miss my kids without a doubt, but thank you guys so much for the honor. Again, I don't feel like I deserve it. I feel like it should go to somebody else, but thank you guys very much.
You're welcome, Jessica. Thank you too. Hi, Grant.
Hello, sorry I'm late.
It's okay. So just to catch you up a little bit, Grant, I just described reenacting the Citizens of the Month Award. Ooh. And so we're going to start that back up, and we normally recognize a citizen on the second council meeting of every month. And so when it's your turn, I will advise you to, or choose your citizen, and then let them know in advance that you think they're worthy of the award, and then do a little synopsis of a biography, if you will, of that recognition and person, and then when it comes, I usually do my recognition in my mayor's report, and so I'll turn it over to who's ever delegated that month to perform that recognition. So I will take it the month of February, and then we'll go with JR in March and Counselor Webb in April, and then Counselor Potter, would you like to take the month of May?
Sure.
And Counselor Williams, you'll have the month of June, and then we just rotate around. So,
Thank you.
yep. Any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Susan Wagner. Hope all is well with you. So we'll move on to Council Committee meeting reports. I think there's none. Doesn't look like it. Okay. Any topics from the floor tonight?
I have one. I
Okay.
received an email, and I'll read it for you guys, and you guys can either respond or direct staff to work with the person who submitted it. This is from Michael Calhoun. It says, "Hi, Rick and Josette. I wanted to propose to the council next week that Vernonia becomes certified as a storm-ready community. It's a recognition from the National Weather Service for communities that are prepared to handle storm events. Below is a link to the official website with more information. If it needs your approval to be discussed," he was going to be here, but unfortunately he's not on the call. So if you guys are interested in that, you can maybe direct staff to work with him. Is that what the intent was, Josette?
Yes. So the County of Columbia County is recognized and certified as a storm-ready county. None of the communities within the county are individually certified yet. And so since we've got a lot of systems in place for flood relief, flood monitoring, Vernonia weather, all these kind of community-wide organizational tactics, we think we're a good fit. So we can work on it and then send you guys kind of the information printed out, because the link is kind of to their whole package, but we could draw from that and put it in your next packet if you'd like. Might be good to be the first one in the county.
Any ideas or suggestions from the council? Did everyone get the email, or just Josette and I? Just
you and I, because he didn't want to go any further if the council wasn't interested.
okay.
Would you like us to bring information back?
Yes.
Councilor Webb, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I read it today, Josette. I think it might be a pretty good thing to get on board with. So
Yeah, so
looks like
we'll print out some sections of it in your packet and then put the link, and you all can look at it once you get your packet, and then make a determination at the next council meeting.
okay. Thank you, Josette.
Yep.
Was that the only audience participation? Okay.
Correct.
Well, we'll go right into the public hearing. And I'll call this public hearing to order at 7:20 p.m. This public hearing is now open for the purpose of considering the CDBG grant application for Business Oregon. The procedure I would like to follow tonight is in this manner. I'll read the disclosure statement. I'll hear the staff report. We'll hear public testimony. Then we'll close the hearing. Then the council will deliberate. Ladies and gentlemen, I call this hearing to order. My name is Rick Hobart. I am the chairman of the City Council for Vernonia. Our role is to conduct private public meetings, hearings, and to make legislative decisions about land use matters in Vernonia. The item before us tonight is a legislative item. Members of the City Council are to be unbiased. Before the start of the hearing, I will ask the members of the City Council whether they have any potential conflicts, such as family, financial, or business relationship with regard to the land in question. If such a potential conflict exists, I will ask whether the council member in question believes he or she is without actual bias, or whether he or she would like to step down during the case review. A copy of the rules of procedure for the hearing, the agenda for today's hearing, and copies of the staff reports are available upon request. Any person with an interest in today's agenda item may offer relevant oral and or written testimony, but please only speak when I identify you for that purpose. It is also important that you make your best case to the City Council, because although all of these decisions are subject to appeal, any such appeal will be heard by the Land Use Board of Appeals, and they will decide the appeal based solely on the evidence in the record before us. Please make sure your testimony is relevant to applicable standards for the item in question. Please do not repeat testimony offered by yourself or earlier witnesses. If I think your testimony is irrelevant or repetitious, I may interrupt and ask you to continue with another subject. Demonstrations from the audience are prohibited. Please refrain from them. Comments from the audience will not be a part of the record. That concludes the introduction. Does any city council wish to declare any potential conflict of interest? Okay. Then would the staff please proceed with a summary of the written report?
Okay, so this is the first step in applying for CDBG funds. This application would be specific to the Springboard Sewer, what we're calling the Springboard Sewer Project. So in the 1990s, Jim Brunsman had put in a line to access all of his property that's off Springboard and what the county calls East E Street. And that line would be sufficient if it hadn't hooked up to all the Fairway Lane houses and then the Roseview Court, the cul-de-sac there. So now it would be undersized for the remaining build out of those lots there that Mr. Brunsman owned. Kind of combined with that, we have an issue with I&I, which is rainwater infiltration into the sewer system up on Corey Hill. So we know that some people's downspouts are going into the sewer system, but we also know that the sewer manholes have leaking where the grout over the years has come undone and the groundwater is infiltrating into that and getting into our sewer system, which we see at the end of Clatsop as a big Bellagio fountain when we have heavy downpours, which then causes us to report that to DEQ and go treat it and do all this stuff. So combined with all these issues is also the issue that our sewer mains cross Bear Creek right at Adams Avenue where the steel plate is, and then they cross through Rock Creek where the waterfall is at the confluence. ODF&W would love us to get those pipes out of the creeks because they see them as barriers to juvenile fish passage. But aside from any other reason, we didn't really have a reason to remove those or change up the system how we had it in the ground. But with updating the springboard line and putting a pump station up on springboard, replacing the line that comes through Wellers, through Hawkins Park to Bridge Street, and then putting a pump station at the edge of the river in between the footbridge and the Ridge Riders entrance, their big kind of wooden entrance there, we can kind of solve a whole bunch of these problems in one shot. So this application is to get grant funding to design that big project. If you use CDBG funds to design a project, you're kind of queued up to then ask them for construction money because you've done all their steps in the design process. You've already kind of done all the things you need to do in the design element. They know you're good for it, you're following the rules, and then you're queued up to apply for money after. We don't have we know it's going to be well under 2 million, probably well under 500,000 just for design. We don't have that estimate yet. We will by the time we apply. This just will basically, this is the first step. If council approves this, then we get the estimates from the engineer, we get all the paperwork, we get all the things lined up that we have to do to just apply in the first place. So that's what this public hearing is. It's one of the first steps that the CDBG, through the Fed, through Housing and Urban Development, the public needs to know that we're going to be applying for this money and that potentially the federal government through those agencies is going to give us this money to do this.
Okay.
Sorry, there's a lot of information there.
Yeah. You laid it out pretty good, Josette. So, thank
Are
you.
there any questions?
Well, I'm going to open it up for public testimony and then I'll ask the,
Council, okay.
yeah. So, if the report, the staff has finished the report, so now this time.
Rick, there's someone who wants to talk. Susan would like to talk.
It's not testimony that I'm asking. It's my understanding that you're required to read the entire public notice and notice of public hearing before you move forward, or is that only with the actual application?
Say that one more time, because I don't know that, I don't believe we did that last time at the very first public hearing.
So
I can read it.
Just to be sure, in the past when we've done CDBG grants and notices, they have talked to us about making sure that we read the entire public notice and notice of public hearing, that it has to be read into the minutes so that they can see that it was read in full. And I'll mute myself now.
I'm happy to do that.
Do you want to do that before we have our public testimony?
Sure. So, you ready? Okay. Public notice and notice of public hearing. The City of Vernonia is eligible to apply for a 2021 Community Development Block Grant from the Business Organ. Community Development Block Grant funds come from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The grants can be used for public facilities and housing improvements, primarily for persons with low to moderate incomes. Approximately $12 million will be awarded to Oregon non-metropolitan cities and counties in 2021. The maximum grant that a city or county can receive is $2 million. The City of Vernonia is preparing an application for the 2021 Community Development Block Grant from Business Organ Development Department for repairs and improvements to the sewer system intended to address overflow problems. Proposed amendments include pipe replacement, upsizing, and slip lining, as well as installations of new pump stations. It is estimated that the proposed project will benefit at least 950 persons, of whom 51% of them will be low to moderate income. A public hearing will be held by the City Council at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, January 19th, 2021 at City Hall, 1001 Bridge Street, Vernonia, Oregon. The purpose of this hearing is for the City Council to obtain citizen views and to respond to questions and comments about community development and housing needs, especially the needs of low-income and moderate-income persons, as well as other needs in the community that might be assisted with a community development block grant project and the proposed project. Written comments are also welcome and must be received by Wednesday, January 13th, 2021 at 1001 Bridge Street, Vernonia, Oregon, 97064, where both oral and written comments will be considered by the City Council in deciding whether to apply. The hearing will be held virtually. Please contact Stephanie Borst at 503-429-5291 if you will need any special accommodations or participating in the meeting. For more information about Oregon Community Development Block Grants, the proposed project, and the records about the city's past use of Community Development Block Grant funds is available for public review at 1001 Bridge Street, Vernonia, Oregon during regular office hours. Advance notice is requested. If special accommodations are needed, please notify Stephanie Borst at 503-429-5291, extension 105, so that appropriate assistance can be provided. Permanent involuntary displacement of persons or businesses is not anticipated as a result from this proposed project. If displacement becomes necessary, alternatives will be examined to minimize the displacement and provide required reasonable benefits to those displaced. Any lower moderate income housing which is demolished or converted to another use will be replaced.
Thank you, Josette. Now's the time for public testimony. Does any member of the public wish to speak or present testimony on this agenda item? I saw Scott Laird's hand up first. Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Mayor Hobart. I just wanted to go ahead and encourage the City Council to approve the moving forward on this application. Under the current city leadership, the city has shown that they can manage CDBG grant funds well and complete projects. And this is a great opportunity for the city to move forward on a project and get some assistance in doing that. So just want to express my yes positive response to this hearing and request on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Wagner, did you have a comment?
Yes, I'm Susan Wagner, 1311 Alder Street, Vernonia, Oregon. I would like to also state that CDBG funds are a remarkable tool and resource for communities such as Vernonia. It's a grant as opposed to the city having to identify funds out of their own budgets that come from taxes or other sources. There are other things that community development block grants can be used for, but in this case, I believe that this is the first of the things that should be addressed using these CDBG funds that are available for the city or available to the city to be applied for 2021. And I look forward to seeing the RFPs for grant administration come out when you get the big grant, because that is something that I as a citizen would like to see, and I as an employee of Community Action Team, speaking selfishly, would like to see us get for this upcoming grant or the second one. And thank you very much, and I really look forward to hearing your approval of moving forward with this grant.
Thank you, Susan. Any other public testimony? If there's no other public testimony, I will close this hearing at 7:35 p.m. This hearing is now closed. Counselors, do you have any questions for the staff? Or wish to present any thoughts on this agenda item? Counselor Williams.
Did I hear correctly that there's $500,000 up front for like just developing the idea and what we want to do?
No, we don't have to pay anything up front. We do not currently have the estimate back of what the design would cost. So you have to kind of start with an estimate, and that's what you're going to ask CDBG to fund. We believe it'll be under 500,000 would be the request, the estimate cost, and that's what we'd be applying for.
Thank you.
Counselor Webb.
So, Josette, so these are basically three separate projects, Capitol Hill, I&I issue, Springboard Lane, and then a separate pump station, possibly at Anderson to alleviate the river crossing. So what are we proposing on the Capitol Hill? Is that going to be the smoke test investigation, and the lining of the manholes?
So potentially, Dale, what they'll want to do is we will probably do the smoke testing ourselves.
Okay.
And then when we go for construction, the slip lining would be in the construction project, and we will have already identified via smoke testing or just visual inspection, like we have the ground truthing of the manholes. We bought some equipment for them to range find the distance, and they're mapping the manholes on where the inlets and outlets are within the manhole, what things are coming from different areas. So that'll be probably something we do ourselves to have the data, then to apply for them in the slip lining cost would be in construction. So smoke testing is probably going to happen on us. The fix to the smoke testing, the slip lining of manholes, and that will happen as part of the construction. Basically, that whole section is what CDBG would see as health and human hazard, right? Because we're having these overflows. No one wants to see that. People are, we don't want anyone exposed to anything. So that's something that they really are easily will tick some boxes for them of something to pay for to solve. But that smoke testing would probably be on us. So that's something in the upcoming budget. We'll probably put the cost of pushing the smoke to a company and the mapping of it and the documentation on our dime, if that makes sense. So we probably pay someone to push the smoke, because that way we don't have to buy all the equipment, since we're not probably going to do a regular testing using that kind of equipment. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, and no, that makes sense. So basically a three-pronged approach here, three projects. So if we get the grant to do the engineering and everything out on it, and then we turn around and ask for funding, can we break that then down into separate projects if we need to? I mean, I don't know how is it grant funding we would be going for in the future, or we'd be taking out another loan?
No, so this first round would be the design.
Right.
Then we'd go into their second round, which has this actually has a typo. It's 2.5 is the most the city can receive. So that's what our construction estimate would be, is the 2.5. And it's really three separate areas that are having issues, but they all come down Adams Avenue and cross across the river together. All of the sewer from those areas is coming to one manhole and then going underneath the Rock Creek too. So it is 3 different areas, but it's one system that we're affecting change on. That's how we're presenting it to them.
Yeah, my only hesitancy would be we're probably going to exceed that 2.5 million. If we might be able to knock a couple of them off, complete the projects, and then go back because we already got the engineering and to get the final. Is that how that kind of works, or?
Well, so from the estimates and walking through it with the engineers, they don't foresee us going over it.
Wow.
The all-encompassed little pump stations that we would be using, because really it doesn't have to be this huge thing. It just needs to, pumping. The springboard one can be a smaller one because it's just making sure that flow keeps moving. It's not got a whole bunch of heads behind it, right? So far we don't see anything that's going to make us like in the $4 million range, but that's why we need the estimate to really kind of say worst case scenario, is the slip lining or the new pipe going to blow it out? Then maybe we design something smaller and take some of those chunks for another round if any of it could be put off. We don't feel like any of it could be put off, but potentially you could pick your highest priority and lowest, right?
Councilor Allen.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I'm over the phone.
We can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I've had a lot of audio issues. Josette, if you get the first round for engineering, it seems like they're kind of stuck giving us a second round because that'd be a waste of their money. Is that how it works?
Yeah, you're typically queued up because you've done everything and answered all the questions, so you're a way easier yes for them because you participated in their process from the beginning. To design it away from them and then come to them and say, we want this money to construct it, they look at you a little more suspect. So you're kind of queued up if you go through them for design.
And they're perfectly fine with giving out money just for design.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
It sounds like we really have nothing to lose.
Any other questions or comments for staff? Councilor Williams.
Back to my original question, 500,000 is not the whole project. That's just the engineering.
That's just the design phase.
Right, right.
And that's just the number I'm throwing out there, Grant. It could be a lot lower than that. I'm not sure what it would cost to design that. We're still waiting on the estimate from our engineer because they have to kind of say, this is what we ballpark it would cost to design all that, do the topography maps, do the different engineering connections and all of it.
Is the major expense going to be in the installation of pumps, or do we have to put in new lines in between the pump stations?
So that's part of what they have to figure out. So we mapped out and gave our engineer all the data we have, the different heights, elevations of manholes, how they all connect. We have all that mapped on GIS, and where we want it to go and get to. And now their project is figuring out how we do that. Can we gravity feed it? Well, by upsizing the pipe, well then great. That saves us money not having to buy a pump station. It saves us from not having to have something we're constantly doing maintenance on, right? They have to help us figure out what is that. And so that's their estimate, is they're going to tell us this is the big ugly for getting your project something that can be constructed.
Do the images that we have now show that there are places in the pipes that have bends in them, elbows or U's? Because that really slows things down.
Yeah, so we have a telescope television that we could do all the lines, but currently what we have is the as-built or the in-ground lines as we've seen them on paper or found them in person. And so for the most part, the manholes that line up off of Springboard, shoot through Weller's Field, shoot through Hawkins Park, those are all straight. They're just
Okay.
undersized for the distance and the number of houses they have connected to them. So our goal is to get that stuff pushed to Bridge Street. Either it's a bigger pipe and gravity or it's a pump station. Either way, we're okay. We want whatever's simplest. But then once it gets to Bridge Street, then you still have the issues where we're crossing the two creeks. And ultimately, if we're going to do something to the sewer, we can't put another one across the creek. We either have to bore, and the goal would be to bore underneath it with a force main. All of it comes to one manhole that is in a pump station and forces it back to the headwork. That's the idea. So, because right now, pump station 1, which is by the dump, takes all of this area where City Hall is, everything on this side of the Gray Bridge. Then it takes a section of the flat land down there by the high school. And this way we would kind of separate it and allow this new pump station to send all of this on this side of the Gray Bridge straight to the headwork. That way pump station 1 could still maintain getting all the flat land and all that, and kind of separate it a little and give our pump stations not as much running time. Pump station 1, when it's overflowing with water from rain, it never turns off, and it'll run for 72 hours with no break.
Yeah,
because it
that's
just
not good
can't
for
keep
it.
up with
Thank you.
Mhm.
Counselor Allen, you had a question.
Yeah, Josette, how much is the estimate going to cost us? I've never known engineers to do anything for free. So,
Yes, so I'd have to ask Angie for that. I don't believe it's a ton because we are supplying them with tons of data. They're not having to go out in the field and get any of that. I think Angie, Jeff, Robert, who's the engineer, and I did one field trip up Springboard to find the manholes. But I'll have to get back to you on that with have Angie tell us what it's going to cost.
I imagine we have a budget for engineering that you're trying to stay within for the year, no matter what. Am I correct on assuming that?
Counselor Potter.
This is for Josette. You gave a number of 951 citizens, low income to middle income. I kind of would like that explained because I was always under the impression that Vernonia was more of a middle income. And is that affecting how much money from this grant is based on the low or middle income figure? If we had a higher figure, do we get more money?
So CDBG is based on low to moderate income communities. And currently Vernonia sits at 51% low to moderate income.
Okay.
The 950 persons, we had to put in a number there, and we based that on less than half, right? About 900, we're like 2112 or something was the last census. And it also kind of relates to our current water sewer customers. So we tried to keep it below half because we know we're a 51% low to moderate income. You can only apply for CDBG with that kind of lower income. They don't give, unless you're building low-income housing, they won't give it to a community that's well off, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so the maximum's the same no matter what your percentage. If you were 65% low to moderate income, the max you could get would still be the 2.5 million in a year, in a one cycle.
Thank
Councilor
you.
Williams.
My next question would be how will this affect new development, like what's going on Louisiana? Is that a completely different system? Or are we going to have to pump up over the hills and down? How's that work?
So Louisiana's kind of interesting because it's a little bit split. Some of it does come back down to State Avenue, which in this case, if we had our new pump station, that lower part of Louisiana on the left-hand side, as you're looking at an aerial, would come down to Pump Station 1.
Mm-hmm.
There is a little bit of it that goes towards the school way and goes down and goes to either Pump Station 2 or 3, depending on where it breaks in the line. I'd have to I could pull up, if you want me to, the sewer map, and you can kind of see that some of the lines head that way, some of the lines head the other way. Do you want me to pull it? I can pull it up here real quick.
Well, I don't know that it's necessary to do that tonight,
Okay.
but I'm just curious as to how the other side of the hill that's lower is affected by what we're doing. And I'm
The
not
other
talking
side
about
of
the top of Louisiana. I'm talking about off of Mellinger.
Yeah, so that new development potentially, if we move forward with what we had discussed about not sending everything over to Pump Station 2, which is by ex-Mayor Harrison's house, we send a whole bunch of that over the river to Pump Station 2, and it comes back on a force main.
Ah,
There was a project discussed, and Public Works Committee will have to kind of revisit it because it came back up again, of kind of bisecting that and only having the tree streets and the across the Green Bridge side go to Pump Station 2 and taking the rest of that to Pump Station 3, which is down below my house right by the lake. That green chain linked area is Pump Station 3,
right.
which currently is not fully utilized. There is some room in there if we had to do some stuff. So it's real kind of complicated unless you kind of follow, okay, and that's one of the things, I have a list of things for Ben to do, and one of them is color code, make me a map. It doesn't have to be the map you show everyone, but make me a map and color code what's going to 1, what's going to 2, what's going to 3, so that when we do this new thing, we can kind of picture map what's going to go to each one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the pump station by your house is the larger of the 3, isn't it?
I want to say 1 is the biggest, the one down by the dump.
Okay.
But then I'd probably say 3 is next and 2 is the last one.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions for staff? Well, thank you, counselors. And at this time, I would like to entertain a motion to either have staff move forward to apply for the grant or not. So, Councilor Williams.
I would like to make a motion that we apply for this grant to upgrade our drainage and sewer system.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilor Potter. A second's been made. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Councilor Webb,
Aye.
Councilor Potter,
Aye.
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Councilor Allen,
Aye.
Councilor Williams,
Aye.
motion carried.
Thank you, Stephanie.
When's the notification, Josette?
Which notification? When
If
will
we're,
we know?
if we were successful in getting the grant.
Hold on a sec, JR, because we just wrote all this down because they have so many timelines. So hold on one second.
I probably missed it when you guys were talking about it.
No, I don't think I even said it, so hold on.
I haven't heard a number on it.
I want to say Ange wrote it all down for me, the different. I want to say it's July, but don't hold me to that.
Okay.
And I can send out a timeline to you guys once I see her tomorrow morning.
When's it? Is it like March? You have to get the grant
I
in?
think it's February to April, and then April is the closing date, and then you wait 60 days, and so I think it's July.
Okay.
Okay, are we ready to move on? Consent agenda for acceptance. Consent agenda for approval. City council meeting minutes for November 16th, 2020, edited. Be found on page 2 through 6. City council meeting minutes for November 30th, 2020. City council meeting minutes for January 4th, 2021. Any
I make a
discussion
motion
or
we
questions?
accept the minutes.
Pardon me?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes.
Okay, motion's been made to accept the 3 meeting minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Counselor Webb. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Counselor Allen,
Aye.
Counselor Williams,
Aye.
Counselor Potter,
Aye.
Counselor Webb,
Aye.
Mayor Hobart.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Stephanie. Is there any unfinished business tonight? Nope. Moving on to new business. Staff report, account signers.
Rick, I do have a question.
Go ahead, Counselor Williams.
Was there ever a date and time set for that field trip?
Yes, so it's in your guys' inbox. The field trip is January the 29th at 11 a.m.
Thank you.
And then we will come, well, I guess you'll go home and call into a work session immediately after, just to essentially restate anything that was discussed in order to make it all good.
Thank you.
And then for the signers staff report, would you like me to present that, Rick?
Sure.
Angie was going to be here tonight, but something must have come up. You guys have the thing in front of you. Essentially what happened is new policies at WANA is prohibiting her and Cassandra from getting account information, which is required for them to do their job. And I don't know why, but WANA wants to look up everyone by their personal accounts before letting them do anything in city accounts, even a deposit, and that is not good when it comes to government funds. This should not be connected in any way. While it's 99% of the time fine, if someone makes a mistake at the bank, it's bad. So this won't really give them any more authority than they already had. It just will allow them to do their job. And so WANA is requiring that this comes before you and for you guys to make a formal motion, making them signers for the city account. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Counselor Webb.
Yeah, I'll move to have Angie Handegard and Cassandra Budge added to the city's bank account at Wana Credit Union for the purpose mentioned above. Mentioned above.
Okay, a motion's been made to add two people to the signing. Is there a second?
Second?
Josette's shaking her head no.
They're not going to be signers, Rick. They're just able to see the balances and talk to people
okay.
about the account.
Okay, sorry.
Mayor Rick, I am seconding that.
Okay, a second's been made. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie? Sorry.
Counselor Potter,
Yay.
Counselor Webb,
Aye.
Counselor Allen,
Aye.
Counselor Williams,
Aye.
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
motion carried.
Okay, we're going to move on to 13B, and that's the alley closure application by the Alls End, and that will be next on the new business.
Okay, so I wrote the staff report for you guys. I've been trying to work with Ernie Smith, the all-in pub owner, about how to stay in business, essentially. Bars have a hard time because typically they can do takeout, but the majority of their money is made in the liquor sales. His competing business across the street has their own patio, so it's working out fine for them. And we went back and forth on different ways he could set up outdoor, and the concern was if he set up similar to how he set up a jamboree where people access through that back door of his business, he was going to have to hire more staff because it's seen as like another area. So his OLCC permit will include this area, but he can serve and take in and out of the window there. I don't know if you know, but he has two windows that face the alley. First, we discussed a drive-through, but that wasn't going to float. So I talked it over with Matt, and this type of closure or temporary use is a type 1, which means they fill out the form. We notified the adjacent people, even the Pelsters that own the building on the river side of him or Rock Creek side of him, because they do access parking for their apartment up above via the alley. So we did notice all the people that would be affected having to go some other way on the alley. And then it comes to you guys as approving or not the temporary closure of that section. A type 1 has a 30-day run. That's why in his application you see it says 1/15 to 2/15, but then they can be renewed or lengthened, but the 30-day span is the time period that each time it's allowed. It would need to be rechecked and renewed at the day after Valentine's, basically. And hopefully he won't have to do this very long, and we'll get back into the high category instead of extreme risk, and then he could do a percentage of his capacity serving inside. So that's the goal. Is just this could keep his business afloat until he can get to having customers inside again.
Okay, counselors, open it up. Any discussion or motion to move forward?
Josette.
Counselor Williams.
I have a question related to not just that situation, but all of the bars in town. I heard a rumor that they're allowing alcohol to be taken out of those businesses. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the state is allowing liquor to go. There's some regulations that go along with that. They have to order food with it.
Yes.
And I believe there's a limit. So per meal, I think they can only have a to-go 2 drinks maximum or something. But OLCC has the rules about that, and they're the ones that would check on those businesses to make sure they're following that if they do the drinks to go.
Is
But
there
it's
some
not
kind
just
of
like come in and get a keg. It's like get 2 pints with your burger order or something like that.
is there some kind of a seal on it so
I
that
believe
people
they do
aren't
have to
drinking
be,
and driving?
I think they have to be stickered closed. So it's like a sticker that goes over the top and down the
Right.
side.
Okay. I was just curious. Thank you.
Counselor Potter.
I just think it's really important for us counselors in the city to work with these small businesses. I know it's really a concern of mine how they're even hanging on. And I know it's been a huge concern for Ernie. And so I just would like to see the city and the counselors do everything within our power and within the ordinances and the city structure to try to keep these businesses going. I think it's very important that we look even a little deeper to see if we can make some amendments somewhere to make it work for them. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you. Counselor Allen.
Yeah, Joe said, I might have missed it, but is there some road closed, alley closed signs going up, or how they dealing with barricading that off? So,
So the goal is we weren't going to barricade it completely off because as you see, he's only taking up the width of it by 30 feet, and that way subway still people could still pass behind there if there's not a vehicle parked there. So we thought that'd be a deterrent if we put a big alley closed sign from customers coming there. It's already going to be hard enough for him to get people out in this cold, I think, anyways. But he is fenced all the way around it. If he was just a loose tent, I think the signs would be definitely necessary. But since he's fenced all the way around it, we weren't going to put them up. We weren't going to put signs up.
I was just concerned about reflective on the fence, so a car half drunk don't run right through there, but
That's a good idea.
some sort of
reflectors. The other thing we did talk about, Ernie and I, and we're trying to get the other businesses. So I know in Banks, they did a Facebook kind of campaign, and I'm talking to maybe ultimately the Intercultural Society or maybe even the Keep It Local Columbia County. In Banks, they did a campaign where each owner did a little snapshot video of specials they were going to do and come on in, kind of a we're open for your business type of thing. And then they scheduled each week was like a go to the All-In Pub campaign or go to Mario's or go to Cedarside or get a pizza to go, or kind of motivating the community to, when you're going to eat out, go right here to one of your local businesses. So I'm trying to get that built up, but it's going to have to be somewhere outside of the city Facebook. So I'm working with some other groups to try and get that, because I know that for like Banks Billiard, it was really, they got a lot of influx of income that carried them through, and if we can just carry these guys for a couple more months, I think we'll get to a point where they'll be able to have us inside again.
Counselor Williams.
I've been able to drive through there. I don't think driving through is a problem, but I agree with JR that I can't remember if there was reflective cones that would alert somebody like he was saying, I mean, somebody not aware that it's there if they're coming from the post office end, I'd hate to have them plow into it.
Yeah, sure. We can talk to him about that, and if he doesn't have them, we can help with that.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to move forward with this application.
I'll make a motion that we accept the application to allow the All-In Pub to take up part of the alley there for the 30-day period as stated.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Is there a second?
I second that.
Thank you, Councilor Potter. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Councilor Allen,
Aye.
Councilor Potter,
Aye.
Councilor Webb,
Aye.
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Councilor Williams,
Aye.
motion carried.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Council. I'm sure Ernie and the other businesses really appreciate this. Business from the departments. Chief Connor, welcome.
Hello, thank you. I just have a report this time for November and December calls for service. And as usual, you guys can read through those. We had a total for November and December of 367 calls for service. I put a total in there also from January to December of 2020 at 1,203 calls for service. And code enforcement was pretty slow in November and December, so we ended December with 17 open code enforcement violations that they're currently working on. And that's all I have. Nothing significant this time.
Councilor Allen.
Yeah. Hi, Chief Connor. Could I get some information from you? I'd like to get the time cards for the last 60 days, including all vacation and sick days taken.
Yeah, we can talk about that. Angie has all that stuff.
Can I ask what the purpose would be? It might depend on how to release it.
Well, I'm just curious. I think it's a part of a bigger conversation later on about who's on patrol and when and our coverage. I'm just curious.
Yeah, and we can definitely schedule a meeting and discuss that.
I mean, I thought time cards were public record. Am I wrong, Josette?
I don't know. No one's ever requested them, so that'd be a Stephanie thing.
It would depend. I would have to talk to Ruben since it's law enforcement. But you could always have a conversation with Chief.
Councilor Williams.
I've noticed that there's an increased number of highway patrol. How is that affecting our local enforcement?
Not at all. We try to stay within the city boundaries as much as we can unless we get a request for services from another agency to go outside with them or to assist them in handling some other calls.
Thank you.
And the state generally does kind of supplement for us sometimes too. When they're in the area, they can cover us on calls and such.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Chief, this is the mayor. When school starts back up, or is there any discussion with the district as far as a resource officer going back and what that would look like?
Yeah, when the school opens up, we are planning to send her back to the school. I know that there was some talks about funding, and I think Angie was handling those conversations, but I haven't gotten any notifications from from the school yet as to an approximate reopen date.
Okay. And then I just had one more question. What kind of, we're going on a year with this pandemic and 11 months in a complete shutdown and school closure. What has the suicide numbers, attempts increased and the calls increased, and what has that done to your department? I mean, has it affected some of the calls you have?
I would like to say that, that there hasn't been anything changed. I think our call volume's probably gone up a little bit, but it's really hard to put a number to that. Whether they've actually increased or decreased, because a lot of the calls that we're going on now are they're the same people that we've dealt with for years, even before COVID.
Yeah. Counselor Webb.
I got one for you, Chief. So we're going to be having some discussions around pedestrian interactions on our streets. Do we have a database that's searchable for probably like a decade or so? We can pull pedestrian auto interactions, accidents. Do we have a source?
Well, we can check our local databases for the traffic crashes and traffic crash data. And then anything that's reportable, we can re-pull from the state.
Okay. It might be informative to us. The wife, she knew of one, but I can't think of hardly any off my head other than downtown kids right out in front of somebody.
Yeah, I know, my tenure there, we've had a couple that I can think of right off the top of my head.
Okay, I might pick your brain someday.
All right, anytime.
Okay, any other questions or discussions for the chief? Okay, thank you, Chief Connor, for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Ordinances and resolutions, are there any? None tonight. Is there any correspondence? No correspondence. Well, then, if not, we'll move right into the city administrator's report.
Okay, so I had sent you guys my city administrator's report for today. So the play shed roof, there's some flashing that needed fixed. We had a citizen contact Councilor Allen about some puddles or dripping spots inside, and the contractor is coming back to fix some flashing up there that's allowing that corner to drip down onto the floor of the basketball court. The logging job up on Ora Bullmeyer is nearly complete. Once the site's cleared of limbs, we'll move forward with replanting the park area with trees that are not affected by Colinas, the root rot disease. Our goal is to have some that are a little bit bigger, so it looks like something's there, and then a number of smaller seedlings that can take off. Lucky for us, Mr. Peel is going to take the debris with him, which is nice because that way we don't have to have the flash files and then the mad neighbors and the toxic air feeling and all of that. The tree trimming on the big walnut tree should be done this week. They're hit a slower spot because now they're on the ones that are right in between Myers and the accessible side of the tree. So they should be done this week. They have 2 more limbs that's stretching straight up. So the Columbia County PPE, so the emergency management contacted the city and talked to us about they had gotten their hands on a number of supplies for the county agencies, some being masks, most of it being cleaning supplies and supplies for when we reopen. So we did put a request in for a number of cases of things, and Public Works staff is going to be picking up our order of that tomorrow at the county fairgrounds. So then when we do open back up to the public, our cleaning people can wipe everything down, and in between them, we can wipe everything down, just to keep people visiting the city hall safe. The CZ trail signage, the updated signage plan should be coming to council at the February 1st meeting. Dale Latham and I have had some back and forth about specific signage that we would want as a city, having the 3 markers instead of just bicycles, having someone a walking or a hiking marker, a horse marker, and then the bicycle marker, kind of because our trail is more used by all of those people than just bicycles. So he's getting those finalized, and then we'll be able to present that to you guys for review on the 1st. The same citizen that called about the leaking roof talked to Councilor Allen about water going over the trail at the Rose Avenue retention pond for their stormwater. And so then Councilor Webb came in, and him and I looked through the plans and went on site and figured out that the construction crew had never pulled the plug to hook the retention pond to the city stormwater system. So it was just holding all the rainwater from that storm in the parking lot, big tanks, and in the retention pond. So hopefully it should never leak over the trail again. But that did bring something to mind that has to do with the next item on my report. With maybe the new counselors, I still got to get you in here because I'm going to say stuff and you're going to be like, what the heck is she talking about? But we have a project in the works to, currently the stormwater from the West Oregon Electric and the Health Center go to Bear Creek. And that is part of what we think is, in the big heavy events, causing the overflow that comes out on Madison Avenue and kind of gets those people, before the river is high enough, people in that neighborhood are inundated by Bear Creek and the stormwater coming off there. So the solution to that is a project we have designed that's going to take the last storm manhole on Weed and actually punch it through underneath the linear trail and do the discharge of those 3 new structures, West Oregon Electric, the Health Center, and the Rose Avenue Center, to the Nehalem, instead of sending it to skinny little Bear Creek that runs in between houses. So that project is happening this year. Part of the next item, which is the SCA grant, the Small Cities Allotment Grant, is going to be used to pave over, once that project's in place, and finish that end of Weed Avenue in front of the 2 homes, and that runs up to the new structure for the seniors and the food bank. So we did get that word that the project period is now open. So we're going to be putting out the bid requests for Alabama and Spencer, were 2 that we proposed, and then that little end section of Weed once we get the storm pipe in the ground. We're working up and preparing the documents to go out for bid for paving, so fingers crossed we get a lot of bids. I always like it better when we get more bids and not one guy and you're kind of stuck with it. So that's what I have for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josette. Councilor Allen.
Yeah, Josette, can you give us an update on the house fire situation, or have you had a chance to contact those people?
Well, so I don't have so she, apparently her phone is broken or something, and she was they were trying to get her a flip phone. I sent a message to the person whom they said on Facebook she was staying with, but I've not gotten a response back from that person. So I don't have the woman whose house burns phone number. I didn't want to publicly ask for it on social media. So if anyone knows it, I'd love to have it, but I don't have it to contact her directly. I believe they got her a new phone or something, is what they said.
Okay. I also did a
They
drive-by.
hadn't had. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead and finish.
So they hadn't had water at that house, a water account, since 2014. I think partly because she had sensitivities to treated water. So they were getting their water up there, I think at the spring up on 26. So I didn't even have a phone number in, like an old number in their account to even go by.
Okay. I think Kim Tierney said she knows them. So if you
Oh,
might.
okay, I can contact Kim.
My other question for you, I was happening to go through the neighborhood of Nickerson Loop, and I noticed there was gravel piles and kind of a few things that aren't spiffed up. I was just kind of curious about an update there.
Yes, I talked to Jeff about that this morning. We're going back the gravel pile right at the end of Nickerson Avenue, the straight one. He's going to go pick up that extra gravel. And then he has some cleanup to do where it still has the 4 cones around it. He's got some cleanup to do there and some cold patch smoothing of that transition there on the road. And then once he's done with his stuff, we'll go out and get someone to do the sidewalk, the finished sidewalk from lot 2 all the way to the corner of Schrader's there.
So are we done with the piping?
Well, yeah, the piping's all in. Everything's in, ready to take water. It's just the cosmetic that needs some help. And they're going to go back and finish that up. And then additionally, Mr. Watts who did some of the trenching, and he's going to finish. There's a few sections of the ditch line on Knott that he's clearing out. If you drove down there, you probably saw there's a couple sections with just huge overgrow of some sort of blade grass that's dead now, but he's going to finish cleaning those out. But we gave him kind of a do it as he can fit it in between things instead of do it immediately and charge us a whole bunch of money for it.
So what happens with the asphalt? Because I don't know if cold patch is going to hold up, or is that just temporary?
Well, so they put cold patch, and then that'll settle a bit, and then we get to a little bit drier time, they'll go back in and put another layer there to make that divot not a divot. Is where they cut across. If you drove there, it's got like a little belly where it's settling. They'll fill that in so it isn't a belly anymore. But they'll wait till it's a little drier so it adheres a bit better. And then one of the things we also talked about, just because there's a huge section kind of right at the corner where the 2 streets meet of the alligatoring. And we know from our research that cap of asphalt is like 2 inches, and then it's like clay underneath fabric. So we'll probably go with the crack sealer and try and cover that alligatoring there to save that from just chunking apart.
Have we had a chance? To see if the fix works?
Say what?
Have we had a chance to watch it work? Our extra culvert?
They did a little bit of it, testing it out on the trail, kind of where they could figure out, oh, that's too much, and it looks like bubble gum, and that's not enough, and it's kind of settling in the cracks. So they played around with it before it started raining very, hard out on the linear trail, kind of by the dump. So if you want to see some play around marks out there. But one of the things, like we talked, go ahead.
I was referring to the water situation, if it's draining out the way we anticipated it.
Yeah, so it had, it flowed just like it should. We didn't have that big waller at the nexus point, or the neighbors calling. What's weird is Nickerson and Bear Creek did really well in not coming out of like their given areas like they have in the past. So I don't know if it's just a fluke thing with this last storm, or it wasn't kind of like a typical storm where we see all the water come out. That'd be the real thing. If it starts flowing heavy out Bear Creek into Madison, I think it's time to take a drive out knot and see what it's doing. But one of the things I was going to say about the paving out there is that until we get the rest of those lots, homes and the rest of those lots, and kind of the construction traffic that's going to come with those, and then the repaired sidewalks, because those new homeowners came, that was one of the things we agreed to with the developers. We'd allow a new homeowner to fix the cracked sidewalks when they moved in. I think we just try and baby it and patch it as long as we can until those are all in, and then the pavement would last a lot longer, I think, because it's sort of digging it up. It's really such a shallow cap. It's going to be a hard thing to pave over and have it crown right and have it meet the thresholds, because there really is like maybe an inch of gutter there. Not good, but we'll deal with it.
Okay, thanks for the update on Nickerson.
Sure.
Okay, any other discussion or questions for the city administrator? Councilor Webb.
Yeah, Josette. So were the sidewalks the thickness that we thought they were? Were they pretty thin?
They were pretty thin.
Okay. So our
Not
crew took
4
those
inches
out,
like
and
we thought.
our crew took
Right.
those out, no problem, huh?
Right. Well, and that was the other thing, Dale, too, is we still could do the upside down gutter, right? Like we talked about, where they have the 18 inches of flat pavement right next to the sidewalk. There are companies that have a machine that would just kind of hone out a gutter in that flat part. So you wouldn't have to worry about a curb coming up and the 90 being the gutter. You just make the gutter like a gutter on a bowling alley.
Yeah.
And the water goes to that. So there's some ways to address it when we do get money to go out there and do something.
And another question. So we talked about having Jeff attend the meeting every once in a while. So are we still on
Yeah.
schedule on that?
I did talk to him about and told him that he needs to do it every quarter. So I said the first meeting of March, he needs to come with a public works report in your packet and then be here to answer questions. So we did talk about that again today. I reminded him, hey, first meeting of March.
Yeah, and on that point, so we're going to be moving towards budget here shortly. And we've talked about the ammonia issue in the lagoon. It looks like some of the water is kind of bypassing our biodomes a little bit, and Jeff's suggesting we might have to put a curtain or something in. So we're going to need some information on that if we're going to act this year.
Yeah, so we're looking at he's looking into some different companies that do that. The same baffling company that did the baffles for some extra contact time in the well underneath the water plant offers that kind of curtain version. So he's giving them some measurements and getting some estimates of what that might cost.
Okay.
To put that out in the lagoon.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Josette.
Sure.
We'll move right into items from the mayor and councilors. Anybody have anything to add? Any questions? Councilor Allen.
I had a couple of things. Since I'm going to be on the cemetery committee, I've been trying to round up some people for that. I don't know if anybody's contacted Stephanie, but someone said they did, and I'd like to shoot for trying to get something going for February's meeting.
I did receive an application, and I also reached out to your committee chair to ask if she could talk to your members to see if they want to have a meeting, and that I would facilitate the go-to meeting for them.
Well, I would like to plan on a meeting next month on schedule, and if they can't attend it, then we need to start thinking about getting some different committee members. From what I understand, we have a problem with attendance, so I'd like to try to push that a little bit if you can. There's no reason not to go if it's over the internet.
They haven't missed meetings except for due to COVID. I mean, like as a whole. I don't
I understand
know.
there's 2 people that live outside of city limits. Is that right?
Correct.
And
Yes.
my other question on that, would we have to stay with 7 or can we reduce this to 5? Because it seems like we're having a hard time keeping 7 people on that committee. I know we've reduced other committee sizes.
We haven't reduced any committees except for the Planning Commission, but they are not a committee. All of the committees are under Ordinance 880, which is what states that they all have 7 members. If you guys wanted to separate all the committees into their own, you could certainly do that. The problem, we have discussed this in the past, and the problem that we ran into is that if we were to make all of them 5-member committees, not only are we reducing the number of people having input, but some committees you'd be kicking people off. It's ultimately up to you guys. We had talked about having, at some point when you guys don't have other work sessions that are more pressing, having a work session to see if you guys want to make any edits to Ordinance 880 or any of the resolutions. I had a recommendation that I wanted to implement a distance from the city that you had to be in order to be a member versus just you can be outside the city limits. Well, what if you live in Redmond? You know, so I have a lot of information, but it's up to you guys.
It seems like 7 for the cemetery committee might be a stretch. I don't know. Have we been running with 7 and no problems or?
Let me look real quick and see.
And you have 2 new applicants, Steph, or just 1?
Yeah, so currently you have 5 members and I have 2 applications, so that would be a committee of 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought we had 3
Also,
positions.
cemetery committee.
I'm sorry. I thought we were looking for 3 people.
No, only 2.
The city website said
Unless
3 openings.
It's probably an old listing.
I think it's currently still on there.
I'll have to update it. It's 2 based on my roster.
Okay, and what did the committee chair say about starting to have meetings?
I have not heard back from her yet, but I just sent them all another email today.
Okay, well, that's probably enough about that. My other comment I'd like to make is still, it's about parks, even though I'm not on parks. Joe said, we talked about putting some money aside for weed killer and fertilizer into the budget, and it always seems to slip through without doing that. Is there a way to make sure we at least get that to the Parks Committee to get thinking about it before budget time?
Yeah, so with that, remember how they sent you guys that recommendation and we kind of sent them a letter back, and then I went to their parks meeting following that, and they're coming up with a list. I think we have, Tim can get weed killer. We have that in operations and maintenance. The fertilizer's a little bit different only because we've been kind of investigating what's going to be best, what kind of process will be best. But yeah, we can easily get them to pay attention to that. And who is it that took that over? I forget. Who took Park? Is that you, Grant?
Grant.
I'm new on the committee, yes. I mean,
Okay, so maybe
I'm going to be the liaison to the committee.
Yeah, so maybe you and I could meet and we could kind of go over a baseline of that stuff before you, are they meeting this month again, Stephanie?
I haven't heard from them yet, but they're still.
It'd be next week, right?
Is it next week? I think it's next week, so I should hear from them this week.
Okay, maybe Grant, you and I could go over that stuff ahead if they do decide to have one, so you kind of be filled in on all the pieces.
Okay, thank you.
I had one more thing I forgot to mention, the generator for the senior center pad. What's the situation? I thought they poured that when they built the building, or we have a separate pad to do.
No, so they were not, when Five Star was done and they were gonna kind of demob, the seniors didn't know exactly what they were doing, whether they were going to put their, existing one in or purchase the new one. We went with purchasing the natural gas new one. That one's ready at Pro Systems, and Public Works was supposed to bring me the stakes today. I finally got the dimensions off of from the Pro Systems of exactly how much everything needs to be for the unit they're purchasing. So they should be excavating that pad and pouring it.
Where's that go? I guess I thought it was going around that trash area, but I was probably wrong.
So it kind of goes adjacent to the patio. Outside of the covered patio, it has to be outside, no cover, and then it has certain clearances away from those windows. So it's kind of in that just all bark dust area right now. Is where that natural gas line comes out of the building right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a timeline on this? Because I'm concerned about the food going bad in the freezers, is why I'm kind of asking.
You mean if the power goes out?
Right.
Yeah, so it's basically put it in and pour it in 7 days. It'll be tested out and they can come put a thing on it. So Jeff and the guys have it to stake it and get it poured and excavated. They got to put about 6 inches of rock underneath it and then pour a 4-inch slab there. But I was supposed to mark it today, but my stakes didn't show up. So I'll have to hunt down my stakes tomorrow morning.
Okay, thanks for the update on that.
Sure.
I'm done.
Councilor Williams.
Josette, is the 4-inch pad sufficient for a generator that size?
Yeah,
That
so
sound-
that's what they call for in the schematic from the company, from Kohler.
That
Because
doesn't
it doesn't have
sound
a ton of
very
weight.
big pad.
It doesn't seem, well, it's thick as a city sidewalk, so it's pretty beefy for as far as a slab of concrete goes, but. And the unit itself isn't super heavy.
Oh, okay.
It has a metal heavy base, but then the rest of the guts aren't super heavy inside of it, like you would think of if it was a huge CNC machine or something heavy getting set on there.
And there's not a threat of that being flooded if it's on the ground? Okay.
No, that area, no, and they're going to excavate and it'll be sitting up a little bit. They'll put 6 inches of rock and then the slab and then the generator. So yeah, it'll be no issue with water getting to it.
It'll be as high as floor level inside the building?
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't been on that side of the building, so I don't know.
Yeah, next time you drive out of town, turn and look and take a look at it. You'll see there's kind of some irises or something growing right near the sidewalk edge, and then there's just a whole bunch of bark dust.
Okay.
Hey, Joe said, I would recommend look at that schematic you got and try to determine where the anchor bolts go and give a little couple shovelfuls thicker where those bolts go, just so you don't drill through the slab and have a hard time getting the anchor to hold.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I will.
Yeah.
Councilor Williams.
I have a general question. If we're aware of a pothole or something like that that needs attention, should we just come to you personally here at the office?
You can call City Hall and put in any citizen can really put in a work order. So you could call Cassandra, Stephanie, myself, Angie, whoever's here, and we would put in a work order. They are done on priority, so it'll get to Public Works, and then as they have free time, they go and do that, or they may do a cold patch day and hit 16 potholes that they have work orders for, or something like that.
Right. Well, I have also a more specific question. I used to live in the blue double wide, right where the city works takes off. And every time a truck went by, it shook the house so bad that it wakes you up. And I mean, what do we do about a situation like that? Because it really needs to be smoothed out.
So when you say where the waterworks is
Yes,
the
where you're
double
going
wide facing
state,
State Street?
yes, on state, there's a double wide, and then right after the double wide, the City Works Road takes off to the left.
I gotta look on my map here, Grant. I'm not sure I'm following exactly what you're talking about. It depends on whose road it is. So let
It
me
would
look
be
at what you're
City
looking
Road,
at.
wouldn't it? That's City Road.
Well, that area by the, so is it a double what, was your old address 1583 State?
You know, I really can't remember. Oh, I can't remember
Is it,
the closest street. You know, you're going up, you start to go up the hill and you go to the waterworks. It's right before there on the blue double wides on the right-hand side. And then it's,
oh, okay.
yeah. And that right there,
1332.
What'd you say, Stephanie?
It's 1332.
yeah, that sounds right.
So the road there is bumpy on
Yeah,
State Ave?
when trucks come through there, when a log, it's not so bad with little car, but when a log truck comes through there at 4 a.m, it shakes that building.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know what we can do about that if it's not a failure on the road. Yeah, I'd have to look at what other towns do with a complaint like that, where there isn't kind of a deterioration of the road adjacent, but traffic's causing some other issue. Is that house on a foundation?
Yes.
Interesting.
Sounds like there's no road base.
Well, there's
Well,
been
what's
some
weird is
repair
that
work done there.
there's been
And
what?
there's been some repair work and there's been, perpendicular trenches and there's another round hole. I'm not sure it's sewer or what it is, but there's just like in a stretch of about 100 feet, there's several things that just caused the house to shake.
Interesting. I'll have to look into that, Grant, and see what can be done about something like that.
Well, when we go on our field trip, we're going to have to go over it.
Okay. But I mean, I'll look at it ahead of that, probably.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Allen.
I forgot to mention, how are we coming along with changing the speed limit signs on Missouri?
Well, we haven't put they have a work order for it, but with no school, it probably fell to the bottom of their pile. But I'll put an action item to double check where that's at.
Yeah, I guess it made me think of it because I know they're going to start school again pretty soon, I hope, or I think. But
Hopefully, yeah.
I drive in there every day, JR. There's some
No, we know
school
you do.
And
But
another
not the
one,
number of kids.
I did have a complaint from our favorite citizen that said that we should just take down the speed limit signs on State Avenue because nobody abides by it and they're doing 50, 60 miles an hour still. So there was another complaint that was made to me, and I said, well, I'd bring it up again, but I probably should have let Chief Connor know that. Anyway,
He's
a
on.
lot
He
of
can hear you.
speeders on State Street.
We can put the speed truck there. The tricky part is, and I know everyone hates it when we say this, but even 25, when you're standing in your yard and someone goes by your house at 25, it feels like they're going a lot faster than 25. if you really clock them, I'd be surprised if you could get 50, 60 and be going up that hill. But maybe they are.
They're doing 35 through town at 5 a.m. too. I can tell you that.
Counselor Williams.
I'm going to agree with JR. I've seen people going through town a lot quicker than 35. And with the cars, opening doors to get out and go to the hardware store or whatever. It'd be nice to see something done about that because a lot of high speed traffic through there.
I forgot one more thing Joe said, another citizen brought up. You probably got an email. They said they were going to send an email. You might have about the parking space in front of the dental office causing the road to be too narrow through there for buses and trucks to come across the bridge heading south there without going across the double yellow line. And I've let them know it's a state highway, but they would like us to send a letter to ODOT and get rid of that parking space or move it down the hill a little bit. Because I think Rick's brought that up when he first became mayor also.
Yeah, so I didn't get an email.
Okay.
But I understand the concern of it. The tricky part is, like Dale said, with the pedestrian data, I don't think we even have one documented case of like a problem or an accident. So that's what they're gonna ask us first is for that data, or they're gonna look for their own data.
I'm pretty sure we could ask Chief Connor if it's illegal to cross the double yellow line.
Yes, that would be accurate.
I believe it's about a $2,000.
You mean like if you're trying to go around someone?
If you're going,
is that what you're at?
If you're avoiding a parked vehicle and you cross over a fellow stay within lane, it's a violation citation. It's not huge, but at the same time, it still is a violation. So that area has been an issue for a long time, and I think it's something we can at least get ODOT to at least take a look at. I mean, worst thing that can happen is they say no, or they'll put a stop sign in the middle of the road.
Well, there's just one parking place right there in front of the Rock Creek building. We're just talking about, what, 16 feet? Why can't we?
No, we understand. We understand what you're talking about.
Why can't that strip be painted yellow and no parking there? I cross that double yellow line every day in my school bus, in my pickup. Log trucks come through there with my school bus and I meet a log truck. They have to pull way over. If somebody's parked there, especially a one-ton dually, I have to completely cross the center line or stop and wait. And hundreds of people do that every day. Stephanie.
Well, the reason we can't just paint it is it's not our, it's not a city side street where we could just decide this whole side of the street is no parking. That's the messed up part about why we can't just go paint it.
Yeah.
You can request anything you want to ODOT. Like what Chief was saying with the stop sign in the middle of the road is whatever they decide to do is going to be what they decide to do, and we'll have to live with that. So that's the unknown with ODOT is they may come up with some wackadoo version of what they want to do there, and we're just going to have to live with it. Even more than we have to live with that tight area when a car or truck's parked there.
Yeah.
But we can ask them.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Can I take a moment for just a little kind of side note? I did hear from a citizen that said that he was approached by members or a member of council and requested that they draft a letter asking ODOT on the city's behalf, basically, to shut down that parking space. And I wanted to just take a moment to remind existing council and notify new council that outside of a public meeting, individuals don't have, for lack of a better word, authority to make official city decisions and act on the city's behalf to request any entity or city or government entity or citizen to do anything for the city. Sorry, it's kind of not a fun thing to say, but so I'm kind of stumbling on my words, but it's just something that comes up every couple years where someone is new or they forget or they get excited about something, and a citizen thinks that they're being asked by the city to do something for them, but they're actually not. They're being asked by a citizen to do something. So just keep that in mind when you talk to people, that they might see you as an official city councilor or mayor, and that you're acting on behalf of the city when you probably aren't, and to make that clear to them.
Thank you, Stephanie, for that reminder. Councilor Williams.
Chief Connor, are there very many tickets written for people crossing the line there?
That's not one that's written very frequently anywhere. Those ones usually start as DUI investigations, but no, not there.
Yeah, I know exactly what Rick is talking about, because when I was driving the big bus and a log truck is coming from the other direction, and somebody's in that parking spot and in the dually or whatever, a 3/4 ton truck, and they decide to jump out, it does create a dangerous situation.
Oh, without a doubt. Myself, I've crossed that center line myself several times.
And another item of that area where that parking space is, it's right next to a crosswalk.
Yes.
In fact, it's on the city hall, town hall side of that parking space. And when somebody's parked there, you cannot see if somebody's waiting to cross the crosswalk if you're going south. And so it's just it's a unique situation that's been a problem, kind of an unsafe situation for quite some time. Like JR said, I brought it up about a year and a half ago, and I don't know what the answer to that is, and so
I think we can just make that, we can make an official request to ODOT and have them review it and see what we get. You know, I don't think there's anything that ODOT could do that would make it any worse than it is at this point. Stranger things have happened, but we can always ask and at least get it reviewed.
that would be good, Chief.
So has anyone talked to the business that actually has their customers parked there?
That'd be hard to regulate.
What?
That'd be hard to regulate. You'd have to have a designated person watching to see who's going to park there.
No, I said, has anyone talked to the business? Because all the other businesses in town have street parking, and we're discussing without talking to them, taking away this business is only street parking. On the street is what I mean.
Right.
So I'm happy to ask them if they care, if we're going to request that.
Joe said, I don't think it's necessarily taken away, but ODOT could darn sure paint some lines in there. And if your car don't fit in these lines, you can't park there. Doesn't have to be
Okay.
dually parking or full-size truck parking. It could be economy only. That's just one solution that I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So
Um,
Chief, I have a question. If it is listed compact only or there's lines, could you write a ticket on it?
Yes, for parking in restricted zone.
So that might be our solution, is figure out what doesn't cause the crossing the double yellow, and see if ODOT could restrict it to that size. And then you'd only have a couple tickets before big trucks would quit parking there. And
Yeah, and I
word
think
would get around.
the big dually, I think, has been probably the biggest culprit of the problem lately anyway.
Yeah, it must be because them trying to get into the actual parking on Park Drive is probably hard with that big of a rig. If they're accessing anyone in that building for service,
it's
like
who I
the
think
dentist
it
or the
is.
chiropractor.
If it's who I think it is, she works at the Brunsman building.
well, sometimes you just get cars that park there 18 inches off the curb. And you
Yeah.
still have problems when you have two big rigs going through. I've had that problem. We've all had that problem. We've lived here for 30, 40, 50 years, way before the Brunsman building was remodeled and this person even moved to this town. So I don't think it's one particular person. I think it's how they park, where they park,
Mhm.
what size rigs are going down the road at any given time. Um,
Yeah.
And Stephanie, I want to address your point that you made about new counselors and this and that, because I've always been instructed to let people contact City Hall. And when the citizen that owns the bus barn tried to come to me about a safety concern, I said, hey, why don't you just send an email with your concerns to City Hall? Because it's an ODOT road, we don't have control of it. But if somebody makes a complaint, then we can, on the behalf of city, we can forward it on to ODOT. So I don't see the problem in what was said there. And if there is, I want you to explain it to me one more time.
So instead of calling people out, I'll just say that what was relayed to me from the citizen who was requested to draft a letter was not something that is necessarily the proper procedure. And I'm not saying it was you. Actually, it sounds like maybe there was more than one person, and that this person thought that they were being asked from a city official to draft a letter for the city to make a change. And it's just that this came up, and it was a perfect time to say a reminder to everyone and let new counselors know. Since we can't really have a training where we talk about all the different procedures that I typically have with everyone once a year, it's just as these things come up, I'm going to try and let you guys know when there's issues.
Counselor Williams.
Excuse me, I was distracted a little while ago while you were talking, Josette. Did you suggest putting a white line that a person had to park inside that line to help keep them from getting out too wide? Is that what you were suggesting?
So it was Counselor Allen that mentioned that. I asked Chief if he could write a ticket against it if someone was outside of the lines. If ODOT said, okay, it's this spot or this box, right? And someone was parked extending on either side of that or out towards the street, could our police write a ticket? That's what I asked. Counselor Allen was the one that asked maybe the lines would be a solution.
Well,
but all of it really comes back to us requesting a review from ODOT, and they'll come up with whatever, they come up
that
with.
sounds like a reasonable thing to do, because what a normal parking spot is 8 feet deep or 8 feet wide. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd have to look it up, Grant.
Because I think those dualies are considerably wider than that, and that could be a good solution.
I think parking's like 7.
Is it 7? Well, that would really help, because some of those vehicles, if they're 18 inches from the curb and they're 8 feet wide, then they're really sticking out there.
Yeah. I'm trying to look it up really quick.
Mayor Rick was correct, though. The biggest hazard is the crosswalk. That's a
So
dangerous
what's
situation.
weird is that crosswalk has the most distance between the front of a car and the crosswalk of any of the downtown crosswalks.
The problem isn't so bad when you're talking about adults, but when you're talking about elementary age children that can easily hide behind a car. I mean, they're not trying to hide, but they're not visible.
Right.
Part of that issue, I think the highway's got a slight angle there, and that hides
Yes,
them.
it does.
I think one of the concerns of the owner of the bus barn, Rob Curl, was that we do have a student stop right there with a big bus. And so if there's a dually or something parked out 18 inches away from the curb, he's sticking way over the center line to make it stop, for one thing. Plus, kids cross that crosswalk to get to the other side of the street. And just, I don't know. It's just a bad area, but let's leave it where Chief's gonna maybe look into it and as far as presenting something to ODOT about it, so.
Yeah, we'll ask him, we can ask him for a review.
Sure.
I think, Chief, did the fire department already ask them for a review?
I vaguely remember that being a topic, but I can't remember what the results were.
Okay. Maybe I'll call Dean and see if he can give us some background before we go for our own thing.
Yeah, well, and
Because if they've asked and had it answered, maybe we need to present it differently or something.
I think the city reviewed this one time before years ago, and I don't think we had a positive outcome. And again, it might have been the way it was presented. So.
Yeah. We'll look into it.
Okay. Anything else? If not, we'll move on to the action item summary, Josette.
Okay, so I have that staff, I'm going to contact Kim Tierney and see if I can't get a phone number or some contact information for the person who was in the fire. Staff's going to move forward with the CDBG application. We're going to question or inquire why Public Works, why the speed limit signs haven't been changed out on Missouri yet, and look into history of the parking spot along 47 in front of the Rock Creek building. And then once we found that history, send it to ODOT for a review. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. Okay, if there's no other items to discuss, it's time to adjourn the meeting. I will adjourn the council meeting at 9:10 p.m. Meeting adjourned. Good night, all.
Good night.